Hey everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the Martyn Sibley show. I'm with Ajit Nawalkha today, who I first met back in Barcelona, more from the stage. Ajit gave a few talks at Mindvalley U, and that was quite early on in my experience with the whole world that is Mindvalley. And then since that, I did a couple of online courses and came across Ajit's other business, which is connected to Mindvalley, called EverCoach. And I've done a couple of online courses with them and really helped me upskill and transform myself, but helped me transform all of the people in my community and my clients as well. So it's really special opportunity to get to talk to you on the podcast, Ajit, and thank you for
Thank you
joining me.
very much, man. I'm excited to be here. Thank you very much. Thank you for
Awesome.
inviting me.
So, I mean, I think, that it's always good to go a little bit of background. I'm sure you've talked about, I've read a lot of your blog posts about your background, but for my community, I think your story about the conditions when you were growing up in India are really awesome, just to set the scene of what you've then worked through to become who you've become today.
Absolutely. So I grew up in India. That's where I was born. I grew up in a family of 23 other people. This was not my parents' kids. This was my cousins and my
Sure.
cousins' cousins and my grandparents and my parents and my parents' cousins and my cousins and everybody in the same house. So we were about 23 people living in a relatively smaller property. And as we kind of came together and stayed in that place early on in my early on in my career, in my teens, I had to decide that I wanted to. I had to decide if I want to continue to live this life, or do I want a different life? And my decision was to be able to live a different life. My decision was to be able to say that there is a greater possibility that lies for me, and I want to have it, even if it doesn't lie there. Because I don't want to grow up in this reality, and I want to change my reality, and I want to challenge my reality. And that got me an early start, because I know that got me to make decisions that otherwise somebody in my position wouldn't. Because in India, you follow the trend, right? You become an engineer, you become a doctor, you become an accountant. That's what you become, or you're kind of like not really doing anything useful with your life. So um, early on in my career, because of the decision of saying, hey, I want to do something that makes me happy, and at the same point in time, I get to live the life that I want to live in the way I want to live it, got me to really analyze one of the times when I was training to be an engineer. So I was giving my admission exams and so forth in India. And as I was giving those exams and I was studying for them, I realized that I don't really like it. So even if I did pass those exams, even if I did go through, I would probably be a terrible and horrible engineer, even if I became an engineer, right? So
Yeah.
I knew I will not be happy. I wouldn't be satisfied. I wouldn't be fulfilled doing what I'm supposed to do as an engineer. So even if I became one, I wouldn't be a happy one. So I was like, okay, I got to do something else. And that got me to take, I think, the first brave decision that I took. And thanks to guidance of a lot of teachers as well at that time. But the big decision I made, and that I was grateful for that I made it, was where I decided that I will quit engineering, and I decided that I will go ahead and try something different in life. And this would allow me to then go into different voluntary organization and part-time jobs and so forth. It exposed me to the world very early on, and exposed me to the idea of what is possible out in the world, and how limited we are sometimes in the way we perceive the world because of the reality that we grew up in, right? Remember, I was living in a house of 23 other people until I was like 24 years old. So I was still in that place and living in that reality, wondering what the heck do I do? And my reality was all about lack of abundance. There was no abundance for me. There was no choice of abundance for me, because it was like, that's what you get. You get nothing, basically. And the expectation in that scenario was that I would just get past, right? You know, I would become somebody, I would get a job, I would probably just like scrape the surface, and because that's what my family and my reality was at the time. And then after that, it kind of changed my reality, because I started to take more chances in life. And as I took more chances in life, it showed me paths to ask questions and ask people for help, and ask how and what I can do in certain scenarios, because I knew that my immediate surroundings were not giving me those answers. So I had to reach out. And that trained me early on to be able to ask for a lot of help when I really need help. Um, And even if I don't need help, just for advice and just for, like just talking and being vulnerable and honest and just saying, hey, this is where I'm at and what do you think? And not really judging it from the context of am I small or big, but more in the context of going, hey, this is what my situation is, and I trust and I believe that you will have the right advice for me right now. And that led me to eventually ask for, as I was doing my career in India, and I was fairly successful at what I was doing. I was running a media company, not running but I was a part of a media group, and I was doing pretty decent in the group. But I knew that there was this digital publications or digital media that's coming out, and I didn't really know much about it, but I knew that was the future because that's how I was consuming information. But India was really behind at that time. I'm talking about a decade ago in context of internet speed and so forth. So I kind of asked around, and I asked my friends from different times that I met them if there was an opportunity they knew in a company that actually knew what they were doing. And one of them was in Malaysia at the time, and he suggested I look into this small, tiny company at that time, which was called Mindvalley. It was about a 12, 15-person operation, maybe 20-person operation, working out of a bungalow, basically. And I joined that company almost a decade ago, and then we grew that company to tremendous lengths, which is where Mindvalley University is one of the products of the company, and that's been the journey for a really long time now.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So really interesting to hear the backstory. And I know, particularly when you're talking about the sort of expectations and the rules that you had, obviously, as Vishen talked a lot about rules. I think myself, having the disability and other disabled people will relate that there's a lack of expectation. Like your label was that you should go on and become an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer. And I think in a way it's all similar, that disabled people, the expectations are actually quite low. And that's what we've tried to break free of, there's those rules, and to then really try and find ways of going different avenues and going off the beaten track. And I know for me, that was really scary because I didn't just go out of my comfort zone, but I unsettled everyone around me view of how my life should go. And so that, I think, there's an interesting dynamic around labels and stereotypes, and realizing that we don't have to live up to them, but it takes courage to break free of them at the same time. And it's not always a plain sailing route. There is a roller coaster element to it as well. Yeah,
it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. And it is, there was a time, and it's Les Brown who says a beautiful line, and his line is, nobody rises to a low expectation. So because it's a low expectation, you can't rise to it, right? So it's beautifully put in that way, and I totally hear you. And people like yourselves are charting new ways and showing new possibilities, of irrespective of what constraints life may offer. There are possibilities that lie beyond that, and I commend you for doing what you do. And I think there's definitely, we all have our constraints and our own versions of mental and emotional and spiritual disabilities, if I may, and constraints, if I may. But if we challenge them, and if we try to see what is the status quo and is there a different way, there's always, if not always, there's most of the time there is a different way. And sometimes it takes a little bit more work, a little bit more effort, a little bit more time. But most of the time, we as competent individuals, as all of us are, we can find our own unique ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that a lot of the people in the disabled community, we have this empowering model that we're disabled by barriers of society. We're not disabled by like a medical condition. And that's really liberating. But the downside I found of that is that to only say that society is creating the barriers takes away any of the self-responsibility. And what I've found through Mindvalley and all the chats with people like yourself, through the gatherings we have, is that the two go together. So the more that I develop myself and I get more confident in what I'm doing, then I can go about pulling down the barriers that disable people. So it's like the two sides of the coin become one, which is really, really interesting. So obviously, so I'd say you mentioned Mindvalley. I want to get onto your book very quickly, but just briefly explain a bit more about EverCoach and how that came about.
So as I was going through my own journey in Mindvalley, I was running the organization, and as I was running the organization, what I had realized is that this was my goal for a really long time. But sometimes you reach a goal and you realize that you were chasing the wrong thing. And I don't know if somebody on this call has felt that, or all of us have felt that, but we have felt to some degree where we are getting close to something and it doesn't feel the same as we hoped it would, right? It's like that pizza slice that we reach out to and we're like, it must feel delicious. And you take the first bite and you're like, what the hell happened here?
Wow.
Right? The idea sounded so much better than the actual truth of it.
Yeah.
And that kind of happened for me. It was really fascinating, and it was really like, Mindvalley is an amazing company and it helped me tremendously. But as I was running the company, I also realized that there was more to my life than just having a great career. And that kind of took me back a little bit, because I kind of had to reevaluate what I really wanted to do with my life. And that actually started the birth of Live Big, the book that we'll talk about in just a second, is because I had to find what does living a big life for me means. I wasn't calling it that at that time. I was just saying, what is the ideal life that I want? What does it mean to live in a way that I want to live? Because from the outside in, I'm living the perfect life. I run a phenomenal company. I work with amazing people. I am purpose-driven, passion-driven. What the hell's wrong, right? If you look from the outside in, you won't see anything wrong with it. And you may be right to some degree, but internally and for inside out, for me to be really realizing that as much as it looks great on the outside, inside, I am challenged with my health. I'm challenged with my relationships. I'm challenged with every other aspect of my life. I had to ask a different question. I had to ask the question of saying, hey, what is it that I really want? And be able to define that. Because that had become the challenge for me. I think I know I had lost sight of what the vision of world for me would be. And that kind of got me to reevaluate everything that I was doing in life at that time, and really revisit everything that I was doing in life at that time, including health, relationships, work, and everything. And that got me to realize there is one thing that I can't do right now. And at least for that time of my life, I had to kind of step away from it. And that was to be the CEO of the company. I knew that I couldn't be that anymore. I couldn't hold up to that vision. I wasn't living the life that the CEO of Mindvalley should live. Or not an expectation, but also for myself. I knew that I wasn't getting the time for myself that I needed to be able to define and redefine my life. And so I kind of stepped out of it. But as I was stepping out, one of the things that we talk also in the book is that you don't want to just quit everything and figure out what you're going to do. That's a very risk-taking way of approaching life. And people think entrepreneurs are risk takers, but they're not. The very successful entrepreneurs, very successful, peaceful entrepreneurs are actually risk managers, not risk takers. They don't go ahead and put everything on the stake and burn it. They manage it and they process it and they stage it in a way where while they're building their dream, they're also working on their passion, working on something that pays the bill for the dream, because the dream is going to cost something, right? Time-wise or money-wise, but it's going to cost something. So they're building on that as well while they are building the dream. And that was kind of my process in there, where as much as I knew that I need to step out of being being CEO of Mindvalley, I wanted to create something where I could have the time, space, and mental space to be able to continue my journey. And that led me to initiate the idea of Ever Coach and propose the idea of Ever Coach. And then I, of course, proposed it to Mindvalley, because all of the companies that I start, I tend to always propose it first to Mindvalley, because I love vision, I love our work, and we know we are both value aligned and vision aligned. So I proposed it. He was like, that's a great idea. Let's do it. Let's do it together. And that's how Ever Coach was found.
Awesome. And you've got some really cool people around you. I mean, I love the stuff you've been putting out. I'm always following it. I read the book of coaching, and yeah, everything in that space is awesome. And my recent golden nugget from Ever Coach is Jason Goldberg, because he's just so funny, as well as being so helpful and serving as well.
Yeah, he's amazing. I love Jason. Yeah.
Good guy. Cool. So, I mean, moving on to the book. I mean, as you said, at the end of the day, the book, I'm sure, is going to weave in, when people read it, it's going to weave in lots of things we've just talked about. But I mean, have you got particular aims of when you're writing the book, what you're really hoping people are going to get out the other end of it?
So my intention is perspective. And that's what I want to be able to shift with the book. Because what I've realized is there's already a ton of books on strategies and systems and so forth, but none of it works if you are approaching it from the wrong perspective. And by perspective, it means is what is the lens that you put on when you look at something? What is the approach that you have when you are thinking about your team, for example, or systems, for example, or about yourself, for example? And if you have the right perspective, if you have the right lens on, you will be able to get tremendously more value from everything that is around you. You'll be able to add tremendous more value in context of your products or your services or to your team to be able to understand time better. And so my intention was that I believe, and I honestly believe, entrepreneurs are smart, courageous, brave people, right? You're starting a business, that's great. You're willing to take the shots, that's great. You're smart because you know if it works, it's going to be amazing, right? So you're smart and courageous and brave. I don't need to show you step by step to everything. If I can just shift the way you think, shift the way you approach something, shift and give, and not just shift by just saying, this is my opinion. It's shift by saying, hey, this is what research says. This is what the stories tell you. This is what legends did. You know, like I collected all of that and I said, okay, here is a proposal for you to reconsider what you're thinking, right? Here's a proposal for you to think about this in a slightly different way. And I know that once that will happen, people will tend to be able to create a new reality for themselves. So my intention is not to write a step-by-step guide. That's not what Live Big is. Live Big is a manifesto. It's a proposal. It's a perspective shift. It's a guide that, but not a guidebook, but a guide almost, which you can go and talk to. It's like a friend that is sitting by your desk side. And let's say today you feel, I don't know how to scale my company. How do I grow this year? Open and flip over a page and you will find how you'll grow your company. If you're feeling challenged about something in the team or in the company, you go, oh, I feel challenged about this. Flip over a page and you should be able to find a solution to that current challenge. So it's one of those things that you will keep forever on your desk. It's not one of the books that you read. It's a very easy read, so you can read it in a night. So it's not something that you're like, oh my God, I need to dedicate hours and hours. It's an easy read. And this is not just me saying it. We sent a few copies to some early readers and some of my friends. And I asked what did they feel about it. They were like, it's such an easy read, but it's so profound at the same time. And it is something that I will keep by my desk side or by my bedside because it's a good reminder to go back to again and again and again to be able to keep and maintain and create the right perspective. So that's really and that was my intention with Live Big. I didn't want to write a document that talked about how I did something. It has stories from my life, but it is not about how I did something. It's about how you can do something and how you can think about life in a slightly different way, which will allow you to be able to grow your company, grow your unit, grow your perspective, and at the same point of time, live a life that is full of choice. So it's not something that only tells you, oh, you'll grow your company, but you'll work 20 more hours. No, that's not my intention. My intention is you'll grow your company. And if you choose to work, you will work. And if you choose to not work, you will not work. The book will provide you both the options, and it's your decision then to say which one you want to take.
Yeah, that sounds really awesome, man. I mean, I know like when I left my day job in 2011 and I thought, oh, if I get through the first year, the second year, you know, everything's then going to be easy and plain sailing, but it's all a journey. And every time we get to another milestone, you know, if we are generally entrepreneurs, you say, are courageous and brave, etc., we don't settle. So we want more and we go for the next thing. And we really want to serve our community and help people to make their life better. So you come up against all these new obstacles. And what I found is that sometimes I got stuck because I was using those obstacles as an excuse, when actually, when I changed my perspective and I realized opportunities were everywhere, you had to just go and find them. And it might take a bit of looking around, but what's amazing is you've distilled all of those into the book. So there's no more excuses for those times when people are feeling a bit lost and a bit down, that they can go to your book as a good friend or a good mentor.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And that was my intention as well, to be able to be the support when you are feeling down and to be able to be the support when you're excited and pumped about creating a new reality. So the book is designed for business growth in a way. It shows you how to grow your business, but at the same point of time, it doesn't ask more of you, if I may.
Yeah.
right? So it doesn't say, yeah, you will grow your company, but hey, get ready to work 80 more hours. That's not what the book is asking of you. What the book is asking of you is say, hey, you want to grow your company? You will grow your company, and let's figure out what's the best way to do it while keeping your life. Or if you want to work harder and work more hours, well, good on you. You can do that too. The systems work in the strategies, the systems, the perspectives work in both of the scenarios, but you don't have to. So you can have the choice if you want.
Yeah, and again, a lot of people leave their day job, they go off on some entrepreneurial pursuit, and they're thinking that they're going to have more time for health, for family, for travel, and a year or two later, they're working twice as hard as they were in the day job, you know? So, yeah, that really
And
resonates.
they realize they have got just a better prison, and that's all they have created for themselves, right? Exactly. And that's just not fair. I mean, as an entrepreneur, think about it. Like you said, we are already making and sacrificing so much because we want to do good. Right? Most entrepreneurs build their companies around saying, hey, this will help people. Absolutely. Right? There are a few people who don't do that, and they learn in time that's more important to do is to help people. But most people start with the intention saying, hey, I can help other people because this has helped me, or here's a solution I am finding for myself, or here's a better technology I'm creating because I think the world needs it, and awesome. And that's how they start their journeys. But in the process, why do we end up going, yes, I will create something great for the world, I will be the martyr? I don't know why we have to be the martyr. We don't have to be the martyr. We don't have to sacrifice it all. We can, yes, give people the tools to be able to live a better life and live a better life too. Yeah. Right? We don't have to sacrifice ourselves. This is just the glorified stories that we hear all the time of people who sacrifice everything. But that's not all of us, first of all. There is a few of us. And a lot more of us actually want to live a great life as much as we want to help the world, right? So my invitation is to be able to do that. Yeah, and of course you've got some amazing news that you're now a dad. So I guess that time you're able to have for non-work activities is fantastic. That you can be with your family. Yeah. Exactly, which is what I was doing even before that. Yeah. Before he joined us in the party. Me and Nita spent a lot of time together, and I love doing that, and I'm grateful that now we have Aryan joining the party with us. It's awesome. Nice one. Well, listen, for anyone listening or watching, how can they get hold of your book? Where can they come to access it? Just go to livebigthebook.com, LIVEBIGTHEBOOK, livebigthebook.com. Just go over there, and it will give you multiple options to be able to get a copy for yourself. It's available everywhere, iBooks, Kindle, whatever. There are tools and places where books are available. It's available there. So go ahead and get that there. That's awesome, man. Anything else you want to share before we close up? No, just know that you have the choice. I know it's hard sometimes and feels really difficult and life feels difficult, but you have the choice. You can make the decisions you want to make. And it might be a little bit of work in the starting. It might be a little bit stressful. It might be a little bit difficult, or so it would seem. But in time, you can change that reality for yourself, and you can create a life the way you want to create your life. Awesome. Well said. Well, good luck for the launch, man. Thank you for sharing your words of wisdom with this community, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Absolutely, man. Take care.